Okay, I'm just going to show you a few things on the power supply board. So what I found was it would not start properly after I'd made that first video. So sometimes it would need me to power cycle the actual machine a couple of times for it to probably warm up enough to drive the power supply that is fed into the DVD side. And the DVD side is important because it's part of the startup process, and if the hard disk and the control logic doesn't detect that that's being fired up, then that's why it just stays on loading screen. So one of the things I did is I went and changed the IC here. I thought, well, it wouldn't matter to change it. It didn't look like the original one was seated particularly well against the heatsink. So I changed that, and I changed a rectifier diode just there. Now, I don't think that really did anything because it was still kind of playing up. So I looked again at the capacitors. Now, as you know from the first video, I changed all the capacitors except for the ones that looked to have been changed more recently. So I went back and revisited, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to have to change the ones that were maybe done 10 years ago or so. So these ones that don't have the dots on, these bigger capacitors, and there's 4 of those, and there's 3 smaller capacitors here, these I did change, and after that it started to behave itself. So I got out my capacitor measurer, which was able to determine what the state of those capacitors that I removed were, and these ones, all the big ones, were way off. So there doesn't look to be anything wrong with them, just reading quite low values. So that was probably why it was a little bit borderline. And another experiment I did was just to put some heat from a hairdryer on this side of the board, and that seemed to make it start, you know, okay. And that was before I changed the capacitors. So the ones you probably need to look at as well are the 470 UF 35 volt capacitors, and you do need 4 of those. And all these capacitors need to be 105 Celsius. That's the temperature rating, so because it's a power supply. Anyway, it seems to have settled down now, and it seems to be working fine. So that was just a very quick video to let you know that basically every capacitor on the board I did change. And if I was to look at this again on a new machine, or even on this machine in a few years' time, I would definitely be looking at this side of the board first, so starting on here, because I think there's probably a fundamental design issue here where it quickly is unable to supply enough starting voltage for this DVD writer, and that is part of that startup sequence. Now, what you could do, and this is what I've read on some of the forums, is that you could supply your power to the DVD writer from an external source. So you could feed in basically a IDE kind of power connector that goes to a 12 and 5 volt line, and basically all the other power outputs on this board that drive the control board, that should probably be okay, and you probably would find that it would basically work without maybe changing these capacitors here, but obviously you wouldn't be using this part of the board to drive the power. So I think, yeah, there's a few there's definitely a few design issues with this board. It's not very well ventilated. There seems to be a few blocking aspects that kind of prevent a nice airflow across these components. What the actual device is really missing is some decent air vents on the actual top of the cover. So the actual cover that goes on top here, if it had some kind of vents here, then that would be good. And I suppose equally, maybe just drilling out some holes here as well, would just let a bit more of that heat escape when you've got the thing powered up and working. But anyway, I'm pleased to say I was able to dump the recordings off this hard disk onto some DVDs. So the DVD writer fix, which I talked about in part 1, that was all working fine. And yeah, it's all good to use now. So thanks for watching the video, and I just thought I'd give you a quick update. Please like and subscribe, and I'll do some similar videos in the future. Bye for now.